Keep your formation! Forward!
In 53, before the birth of Christ, one of Rome's most disastrous military defeats took place in the sands of Mesopotamia near the town of Carrhae, modern-day Harran, Turkey. The Roman army, led by Marcus Licinius Crassus, one of the wealthiest and most powerful men in Rome, marched into Parthian territory with hopes of glory and conquest. Crassus wasn't just any Roman general. He was part of the powerful First Triumvirate alongside Julius Caesar and Pompey the Great. Hoping to match or even outshine their military fame, Crassus saw the Parthian campaign as a shortcut to legacy and riches. Despite warnings and the lack of Senate approval, he chose to invade Parthia directly through the scorching deserts rather than taking the safer route through Armenia. The Armenian king, Artavasdes II, had even offered Crassus extra troops and a better path. But Crassus refused, trusting a local guide who turned out to be a Parthian ally. While Crassus moved into hostile territory, things in Parthia were already unstable. A civil war had recently ended, with King Orodes II defeating his brother to claim the throne. A Roman general named Gabinius had earlier tried to use this chaos to Rome's advantage, but he backed out to deal with matters in Egypt. Crassus, however, charged ahead, hoping the situation would work in his favor. Crassus's son, Publius Crassus, a young and successful officer who had fought under Caesar in Gaul, joined his father with a unit of skilled Gallic cavalry. Together they gathered a large army and crossed into Mesopotamia. Upon learning of the Parthian army's presence, estimated at around 10,000 troops, Crassus's forces grew anxious. His experienced lieutenant Gaius Cassius Longinus advised deploying the army in the traditional Roman formation, infantry in the center, cavalry on the wings. Crassus initially agreed, but soon reversed his decision, forming his legions into a hollow square, each side comprised of 12 cohorts. The square formation was intended to guard against encirclement, but it came at the cost of maneuverability. As the Romans approached a nearby stream, Crassus's generals urged him to rest the army and delay the battle until the following day. However, his son, Publius Crassus, eager for glory, persuaded his father to engage the Parthians immediately. Surena, commanding the Parthian forces, began with psychological warfare. He ordered hundreds of hollow drums to be beaten, their deep and thunderous noise unnerving the Roman troops. As a dramatic gesture, he had his elite cataphracts advance with their armor concealed beneath cloths. Once in full view of the Romans, they simultaneously cast off the cloths, revealing glimmering polished armor that dazzled in the sunlight, an imposing sight designed to terrify. Surena had initially considered a direct cavalry charge to break the Roman lines, but instead opted for a more measured approach. He sent in his horse archers, who began to encircle the Roman square. Crassus dispatched skirmishers to drive them off, but they were quickly repelled by a relentless barrage of arrows. As the legionaries braced under their shields, they were bombarded by a storm of missiles. Desperate to close the distance, Roman infantry made repeated attempts to engage in melee combat. But the Parthian horse archers always withdrew out of reach, firing deadly Parthian shots as they retreated. The Romans resorted to the testudo formation, locking shields to create a nearly impervious shell. but this left them vulnerable to cavalry charges. Serena's cataphracts exploited this, launching devastating attacks that sent shockwaves through the Roman ranks. When the Romans tried to loosen their formations to fend off the cataphracts, the Parthians would pull back, allowing the horse archers to resume their deadly volleys. Crassus hoped that the Parthians would eventually exhaust their supply of arrows. However, Serena had planned ahead. Thousands of camels laden with arrows constantly resupplied his archers. Realizing the danger, Crassus dispatched his son Publius with 1,300 Gallic cavalry, 500 archers, and 8 cohorts of legionaries to drive off the horse archers. The Parthians, however, feigned a retreat and lured Publius's force away from the main army. As they pursued, the Roman detachment came under withering arrow fire. Once isolated, they were suddenly confronted by the heavily armored cataphracts, while Parthian archers cut off any chance of retreat. The Gauls under Publius fought valiantly, but their inferior arms and armor left them at a disadvantage. Eventually, they retreated to a small hill where Publius, mortally wounded and surrounded, took his own life. His men were slaughtered. Only about 500 survived to be taken captive.
Fall back!
Back at the main camp, Crassus remained unaware of his son's fate until the Parthians paraded Publius's severed head on a spear. Morale collapsed. Parthian horse archers encircled the Roman square once more, raining down arrows from all sides. Simultaneously, cataphracts launched wave after wave of charges, shattering cohesion and driving the Romans into further chaos.
Retreat! Fall back!